What does the FDA, testosterone, and the pharmaceutical companies have in common? Stick with me till the end and I'll show you. My name is Alan and this is the Cordios Tribe. Let's get into this. So let's get into this. I'm going to talk to you guys about the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, testosterone, and the pharmaceutical companies. All of these three are tied together, attacking masculinity. So the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, has been known to leave chemicals in foods that attack our testosterone, not just men's testosterone, but also women's estrogen as well. A lot of these are on some of our foods that we get from the store. So a lot of your cardboard box foods, things like that, will have these chemicals on there. And most of the time it will say under California's P65 rule that these can cause cancer. I don't know if you guys have seen those on the labels or not. So I'm just going to run through 4 different chemicals that are in your food that are attacking your testosterone and other parts of your body. Mostly that has to do with reproductive harm. In other words, these things can affect how your child grows up. Also, it can affect the testosterone that we have as men in our bodies. A lot of times you will see the Food and Drug Administration and a couple other places like the WHO, pharmaceutical companies will tell you that eating meat, especially red meat, butter, things like that, are bad for you. You shouldn't eat them. They are causing you to have heart attacks. This, in my opinion, it holds no weight. And there are plenty of people out there who have done studies on this. And that is a complete and total lie. Unless you have something inside of your genetics from your family that is causing you to have issues with your heart, that is the only way that you are having heart attacks. This is not tied to red meat. This is not tied to butter, things like that. So there's one called bisphenols. Similar to the hormone estrogen, bisphenols can disrupt fertility and puberty. They can also increase body fat and cause issues with the nervous system and immune system. This can be found in a lot of boxed foods that are pre-prepared, that come from the warehouse. A lot of meats that are pre-packaged will have bisphenols in them. And the Food and Drug Administration, it does not do anything about this. They don't try to remove it. They don't care. They leave it in the food because they know what it's doing to men especially. So this entire show, all of these episodes are to show you that these people who own these companies that make a lot of money, that are Fortune 500 companies, are leaving these chemicals purposely in our food to basically tear apart our testosterone and the biology in men. And as you just see in here, it said disrupt fertility and puberty. So if you have a teenager that's 14, 15 years old that's eating boxed foods and it's got these bisphenols in there, they're going to have problems. So another one is phthalates. These chemicals can mimic hormones. This makes me angry because they know what they're putting in the food and they know that it disrupts the hormones, yet they still continue to put it in our food. So these chemicals can mimic hormones, which can increase the risk of cardiovascular disease and obesity and interfere with male genital development. A lot of times they'll put these chemicals in the food, but they won't put it on the box. So they're not telling you about it. And then you have I'm probably going to kill this. Perfluoroalkyl chemicals. PFCs is what they're called. These chemicals can cause problems with fertility, the thyroid, and the immune system, and can lead to low birth weight babies. So the last one, I'll go back over that here in a second. The last one is arsenic. And arsenic tends to be actually in a lot of our food. This naturally occurring chemical can be found in plant crops such as rice, and in some edible seaweed. So I was only going to do 4, but I'm actually going to add another one. The other one is bromate. This poison can cause birth defects and organ damage. It's found in brominated vegetable oil, which is used to suspend flavor oils in soft drinks. So you have 5 different chemicals that are in our food that the FDA is letting slide under the radar and will even write on the package that it can cause cancer and reproductive harm. So these are things that you really should be watching out for, especially in your children. If you have boys who are, in their teens, they're coming up on 10, 11, 12 years old, things like that. And also in your daughters as well. If it's going to be things like the bisphenols that will affect fertility and puberty, that's both in girls and boys. The reason I bring this up is because you have so many boys nowadays who are struggling with masculinity, who are struggling with being bombarded by the media, by social media, by cartoons telling them that it's okay to be gay, and all of these different things that are happening. And then you have we have the lowest rate nowadays of testosterone of any of recorded history. This is the worst that it's ever been. And on top of that, also obesity is also one of the leading causes of death here in the United States. These chemicals that I just read off talk about all of those problems inside of those chemicals. So your sodas, things that you get from the store, all of these things are what is causing issues. A lot of people are having problems losing weight and things like that. That can all be brought back to this situation right here and these chemicals that are in our food. I really would like to see people put pressure on the FDA to go back through and get these things removed out of our food. Russia does not allow these chemicals in their food, and you can actually be taken to court, have your farm shut down, and your license pulled to be able to grow food. I will touch on a little part here. Other than eating these things that you get from the store that have these chemicals in them, I would say that the carnivore diet's probably going to be your best bet. If you can't do just the carnivore diet, then maybe you could put some vegetables in there, maybe a little bit of fruit. But we are meant to eat meat. We have been eating meat since humans have existed. So that is one of the main things that we should be eating. Those are just things to keep in mind to kind of get away from the foods that we have in the store. I know it can be hard, but if you want to feel better and you want to lose weight and you want to boost your testosterone back up, that is one big way to do it, is to cut these chemicals and these foods out of your diet. All right, and this is part 2. So I wanted to talk about the pharmaceutical companies and how they will give people or give children ADHD medications or ADD medications. So if you have a son or a daughter, usually it's boys. Boys are the ones who get told that they have ADD more than anybody else. These children will be taken to the doctor. The parents will tell them, yeah, he has too much energy, he can't focus, all these other things, right? That doctor will then turn around and tell them, yeah, he has ADHD or he has ADD. And the next thing you know, they put them on things like Ritalin, Adderall, Prozac, things like that, right? So what I wanted to talk about was there has been a long string, I would say in the last 20 to 30 years, where these doctors are paid to tell these parents that these kids have ADD and ADHD, and they are given these medications. And while they're being given these medications that are very powerful, some of these boys are only 13, 14 years old, which means they're hitting puberty. And instead of putting them into a fighting sport or putting them into something where they can use that energy towards something that is productive, they instead tell them that they have ADD and ADHD. I will say that when boys are in class and you are trying to force them to learn a certain way, boys do not learn like girls, period. They don't. They have a totally different way of learning. Boys are not girls and girls are not boys. Boys are more hands-on and they like to do things with mechanics and things like that, right? So they will put these boys on Ritalin, Adderall, Prozac, things like that. And this is reading off of their website, can potentially have negative impacts on reproductive health, potentially affecting fertility in both men and women, and may pose a risk during pregnancy to potential effects on fetal development. So that's one for the women. Therefore, it's crucial to consult a healthcare professional before attempting to conceive while taking ADHD medication. Now, key points in here is it says male fertility. Studies suggest ADD stimulants might negatively affect sperm count and motility, potentially impacting male fertility, right? So it's basically telling you right here that it is attacking the testosterone in the body. Your sperm count is tied directly to testosterone. So if it's affecting that in reproductive systems, it's also affecting the testosterone in boys as well. So when you look in part 1, I was talking about how we have the worst count of testosterone ever in the history of, since we've been keeping track of it. Our right now in 2025, we have the lowest testosterone ever in history, right? Now, if you look at this and you look at food, those two combined, just those two combined are enough to be able to say, okay, there's a connection here between testosterone, ADHD medication, and the food that we eat, and ADD medication. So another part of this too is it says taking ADHD medication during pregnancy, especially in the first trimester, may be linked to an increased risk of certain birth defects, although research is ongoing and findings can vary. So I want to say something real quick. My son has hypothyroidism, and that has been something that has been on the up. When you look at a graph, we have more cases of hypothyroidism now than we've ever had in the past. We have more cases now of cancer in the reproductive area than we ever have had before, especially in men, right? So I just want to put a little bit of attention towards this in saying that I think that a lot of these ADHD medications and ADD medications being given to women and men has a lot of effects on testosterone and the things that we're doing. So if you're a father and your kid's mother is trying to put your kid on ADHD medication or ADD medication, I would strongly suggest you do not do that. Boys just need something to stay busy. Put them in a sport, put them in jujitsu, put them in karate, put them in boxing, find something for them to do. A lot of times, the reason why they look or seem like they're ADD or ADHD is because there's not enough stimulation in their lives to keep them busy. They're not doing anything. They're not going outside. They're not going to Boy Scouts. These boys don't have anything to do. So we have a reason why there's an issue with masculinity and testosterone. And this is just one part of the puzzle of what is going on. Now, on the last part of this, I would like to take a minute to tie this into who owns these companies. Look at the pharmaceutical companies and follow the money of where it goes, right? I don't know if the people watching this, if you're aware of BlackRock and Vanguard and things like that, a lot of those companies are the ones that put money towards studies and things like this for these medications, okay? So follow the money to who owns it, and I guarantee you're going to find somebody that is a common denominator between all of these different things, between the Food and Drug Administration, between the WHO, between the pharmaceutical companies, these big ones. I have to be careful what I say because this is YouTube. So use your imagination, pattern recognition, and put those things together, and you could probably figure it out. It's very important for us as parents, especially as fathers, to put an impression on our children and to be able to talk to them and let them know that these pharmaceutical companies, the medicine that they're being put on, our daughters being put on birth control, all of those things play a part in messing with the hormones and the way that our brain works. So those things need to be brought up to our children, and we need to talk to our children about them and keep them away from these medications. So food and medication is very, very important. Those are two things that you should know about. Thank you for sticking through to the end of the video. I appreciate you all being here. Like, share, subscribe, and pass this on to as many people as possible to get this message out there. And let me know how you guys like these deep dives into these conversations. Y'all have a good one. I'll see you on the next one.